The debates and decisions that are shaping our continent now in Europeans.
Something's wrong at Faja do Callao. It's disappearing. We're in the Azores. Most of the houses along this shoreline are abandoned. Very few people still live here year-round. With the Atlantic nibbling away at the island of São Miguel, building along the edge is illegal. Plans for a tourist resort here were shelved. Erosion is a real problem. The coordinator of the environmental association Quercus once owned a hotel. Today he lobbies with pressure groups to keep the regional government on the green track. The Azores, like stepping stones a third of the way from Europe to America, are Portuguese. About 250,000 people live here. We're looking at São Miguel and Terceira, two of the archipelago's 9 main islands, at the outer edge of the European Union. Portugal is the current EU president, and Terceira has just hosted the Conference of Peripheral Maritime Regions of Europe. Experts and politicians were invited to discuss the European Commission's Integrated Maritime Policy Initiative. It's about combining economic interests with transport concerns, fisheries, climate and environmental protection for the long-term development of European maritime regions. The number 2 in the Azores regional autonomous government criticizes the Commission's discussion paper as short-sighted.
You have in the Green Paper, you have a reference to a possibility to transfer to citizens the risks and the financial costs of living in the shoreline in risk areas concerning mainly shoreline. So in mainland, you can have the option to live in a shoreline, or you can live in the mainland in the interior. Well, in islands, you don't have this option. You have to be in the shoreline.
This is about money. The next multi-annual EU budget begins in 2013, and 156 regions are already lobbying to create a distinct coastal and island fund. The conference delegates also look at ways around conflicts, for instance, between economic development and environmental protection. One special guest designed an integrated oceans policy for Australia. She describes the enormous task for Europe clearly and briefly.
First, get the environmental side right. So base it on science, understand what the key values are, the key conservation values are, and set that out, share that information with industry. It gives them certainty. It's what they can base their plans on. It doesn't need to be a conflict, but governments need to be proactive, do the research, come forward and say which parts of marine biodiversity are important, and industry will support it.
A French delegate shares this view.
The integrated approach is just what's needed to assure environmental security. Without it, everyone does as he wants, a little bit everywhere, and there's anarchy.
The Azores cherishes its green reputation. Development with a conscience, weather which is constantly changing but rarely extreme, lush vegetation and quality tourism. And so this strikes quite a contrast. The local administration has called it a small secondary road project. Green groups are horrified at the environmental impact. The authorities say the road is being built to serve Faja do Callao, but almost nobody lives there anymore.
This is just plain stupid. It's a waste of taxpayers' money. This project is being done without a technical feasibility study, without a clear objective, and without serving the needs of the village down the hill, which people have abandoned. There is no one down there anymore, and the incompetent people responsible for this work didn't even know it. Plus, they didn't know how much they are endangering the nesting areas of protected seabirds.
These seabirds go by the name of Cory's shearwater in English, or caragos locally. 80% of the world's caragos live in the Azores. The species is protected under European law. Researchers at the Azores University agree with the environmental associations that this road is not necessary. The critics don't say all the roads are bad. Roads help regional development. They bring curious tourists. Roads can be built without harming animal and plant life. In the past 10 years, the Azorean government has put €300 million into upgrading roads. More than a third of this was EU money. And then, European islands are stressing the importance of air transport. They argue that an integrated maritime policy, if it happens, should also be used to further develop this. It would reduce long-distance isolation. The key word used is cohesion. But there are limits. This huge highway project, the biggest ever on the Azores, has no EU funds going into it. 95 kilometers long, price tag €325 million. The minister in charge, when asked why a small island needs a 4-lane highway, said it was to halve the driving time between the two main cities, from 20 minutes to 10 minutes. The project was downsized. Just one section will be 4 lanes instead of the whole thing. Public hearings made this possible. There wasn't any public consultation for the Faja de Callao road. The Maritime Regions Conference, CPMR, proposed that the regions which accommodate environmental and economic interests should win special recognition, a blue flag quality label of good governance. The EU Fisheries and Maritime Affairs Commissioner talks about a cross-pollination of best practices.
Well, blue flag for the regions would be, the way I understand it as it is developing from the CPMR, would be identifying areas which have already taken an integrated approach towards, for example, the sustainable development of the coastal areas. And in that way see how this is done and see how that can be applied to other coastal regions.
To avoid inconsistencies, projects need an integrated approach. It's an argument that's gaining ground all over the European Union.